This is an overview for Chapter 2 in our Business Analytics textbook. So Chapter 2 provides an introduction to spreadsheets and specifically to some of the more common features and functions of Microsoft Excel that are used in spreadsheets and we will use throughout the rest of this course to perform our assignments and exercises in the textbook. So the textbook and the course starts from the assumption that you have a basic set of Excel skills and some familiarity with using Excel in general. So if you use it in school or in work, you're probably okay. But if not, you should go out and look at YouTube and find some videos that give you an overview of basic Excel features, functions, and skills. Usually 30 to 60 minute video will put you in good shape to where you need to be to start using Excel for this course. Additionally, as you work your way through this chapter, it is important that you'll want to go through each of the examples within the chapter and follow the instructions that they give you in the examples to make sure that you're understanding the concept that they are covering. Now, to that end, I have also in the Week 1 Resources folder, I have copied the Excel spreadsheets that are used in each of the examples in Chapter 2. So it's in this subfolder here. And there are, in this case, there are 4 Excel files. If you go and open up that file and then work your way through the example, then you should be in pretty good shape. Also, at the end of the chapter, there are exercises which are very similar to the examples. And if you would like to work through some of those, that would be very beneficial as well. I have also added in here the solutions to those exercises at the end of the chapter, so you can check your work, or if there's a concept that you don't understand, if you look at the solution here in the solution spreadsheet, then I think it'll become pretty obvious what was expected or what was required to complete those exercises. Again, the exercises are optional, and if you think they'll help you, then go ahead and work through some of those. Okay, so getting back to the contents in Chapter 2, things that you'll want to make sure you understand. One is how to build formulas in cells within a spreadsheet to perform mathematical operations. Understanding the basic format of a formula, how it has to be entered into the cell, how to reference cell values, and that kind of thing. You want to make sure you understand the concept between relative and absolute cell references, and that you can copy formulas from one cell to another, but make sure you understand the relative and absolute references to make sure that it captures the right values that you want in your formula. Basic Excel functions, we will use these functions a lot throughout the rest of this course. So functions that allow you to average a range of numbers, count a range of information, that kind of thing. So make sure you pay particular attention to the examples on how to build and how to use functions in Excel. Example 2.2 gives you a spreadsheet where at the bottom here they have built in several functions to do different things, such as average the number of AP months in column H, count the number of O-ring orders, etc., etc. So it gives you the actual formula that they used here, and then shows you the result. And if you go and get the spreadsheet for example 2.2, then you can go ahead and build those formulas yourself, following the instructions in the textbook. There's a dialog box for building functions, so you can just choose the function that you want to use. then the dialog box will take you through and prompt you of the information that you need to enter or the cells that you need to reference in order to be able to build those functions. So make sure you have functions down pretty well and you understand what they are and how to use them. We'll be using them a ton throughout this course. Lookup functions for database queries, particularly VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. What these allow you to do is to, if you have a large database and you don't want to, or it's not practical to scroll through there looking for information, you can set up formulas and functions that will go and look that information up for you given a criteria that you specify, and then it will find the information and bring it back to you into a cell in the spreadsheet. So VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, make sure you understand those. Not too much worried about index and match. We won't really use those much in the course, but the other two we definitely will. So example 2.5 takes you through an exercise on VLOOKUP with a data file for that as well. And then lastly, for Microsoft Excel, there are some add-ins that do not come with the standard delivered Microsoft Excel software that you will need to download and install into Excel on your computer. They are the Analysis Tool Pack, the Analysis Tool Pack VBA, and the Solver. The instructions for how to add in those items is located on page 50 in Chapter 2, as well as there's a short explanation here. The textbook also references another software called Analytical Solver Platform. It's a third-party software outside of Microsoft Excel. That is not required for this course, so don't worry about trying to find that or trying to figure out how to download it. You will not need it for this course. Lastly, we'll go back to Assignment 1A. Remember, there are two parts of this Assignment 1A for performance lawn equipment. The first part we looked at in Chapter 1, and now we're going to look at the part for Chapter 2. Even though this slide says Chapter 1, I'm going to cover for Chapter 2. Obviously made a typo building that slide. So in Chapter 2 for Performance Lawn Equipment, at the end of Chapter 2, there is also an explanation of the analysis that they want you to perform. Remember that the database is this Excel file that is located here in Assignment 1A. And if we open up the database, it's the same database that we looked at in Chapter 1. And the directions are pretty straightforward in terms of what they're asking you to do. However, there are a couple of Excel functions that I want to make sure that you're aware of that will make this assignment a little bit easier. So first of all, when you open up this spreadsheet, you want to turn off or hit the Enable Editing button. And that will allow you to go in and make changes to the spreadsheet. So then save a copy under some name that's familiar to you, and then that's what you'll turn in with the assignment. So first thing, if you recall, there are 23 workbooks here. And the assignment asks you to perform some operations on, I think, maybe 4 or 5, maybe a half dozen of them. So what I wanted to make sure that you were clear on were a couple functions that aren't explained in the textbook. One is you can drag and drop these workbooks around to move them around. So if I want to take this complaints workbook, I just hover over it and click on my left mouse button, pull it over here, and then I can drop it so that it's over here between dealer satisfaction and end user satisfaction. I recommend that the workbooks that they ask you to work on, take all of them and drag them to the front of the workbook list down here on the bottom. Okay. The other thing is that you can create new workbooks by clicking on this little plus sign here, and it will give you a blank workbook. And if you double click down here on the name, you can then give it a name that is meaningful to you. and now you have your new workbook inserted right here. Okay. The assignment will ask you to create some new workbooks, and that's why I was going through that. And then lastly, referencing cells within formulas. There's a hard way to do that and an easy way. The easy way is to just come in and click your equals sign to start a formula. And then the next thing that you would enter in, if you were entering it, is the cell address. But if you just come over here and click on the cell address, it'll copy in that address. Hit enter, and then the value that is in that cell that you referenced is now displayed here. You can do the same thing to bring in values from another workbook into this workbook. And the way you would do that is you start the same way. You want to come over here and find, then I'm going to bring a cell from the complaints file into the dealer satisfaction file. So I'll come over here and I want to use B5, which is the complaints for January for the world. So when I click on that up here in the dialog bar, it will give me that cell address. And if I just highlight it and copy that, and then I can come back over to dealer satisfaction and replace what it had in there. And now I have the value from the complaints workbook in B5 displayed in my dealer satisfaction workbook. Also, one other thing that you can do is you can do the same thing within a formula. So if I start a formula and I come over here and say, okay, I want to take the value from B5 in this workbook and I want to add it to the value for B4 in the complaints workbook, and replace that there. Oops, you got to put in the second parenthesis. Oh, it did it for me. Okay, so it added those two values together for me, and you can see up here, here is my formula that I built by referencing that cell from another workbook. So I go through that because that's going to be something that will be very helpful in completing your assignment 1A. So that's pretty much it for Chapter 1 and Assignment 1A.